All right, y'all. Welcome back and happy Thursday. Today, we're going to be breaking down Tennessee's wide receiver room because over the past couple of days, I've seen people on social media, on message boards, asking, do we have a problem with the depth? Do we have enough scholarship bodies? And we will take a look at how Tennessee stacks up versus the rest of the SEC. And we'll talk more about this entire room and what my personal expectations are for these guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. This video is coming out first to all of our members on Patreon and YouTube. Y'all can join us as members on our YouTube by clicking that join button just below this video, and then y'all can join us on Patreon for free or on the paid tiers. And we have a whole lot of free content there too. That's the best way for y'all to reach out to me. You can message me. We have group chats and all of that. You can interact with other members there. So that's at patreon.com/Bluechip Breakdown. But let's go on ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to show y'all is how Tennessee stacks up with our scholarship wide receivers versus the rest of the SEC. And this is in order based off of the most to the least. Tennessee has the least. Okay, we're dead last. We only have 7 scholarship guys. You can also see how many 5 stars, 4 stars, and 3 stars each team has. Now, Tennessee's in a good spot just based off of, maybe not a good spot. It's probably not the right way to say it, but Tennessee's in a better spot than you might think just because everyone that we have, they're all blue chip caliber players. So it's a very talented room, and we've said that. I like the bodies in there, but it's just not like, if you look at the rest of the SEC, I mean, most programs have 10 plus scholarship wide receivers. And this is not counting Boo. This is not counting people that play, offense, defense, special teams. This is just about true scholarship wide receivers because Boo Carter is really a star on Tennessee's team. He's a star that can help us out and play some offense. He's not a full-time guy, so it's not quite the same. But yeah, Tennessee's not in the best body. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. And now, hopefully, all the speculation can kind of stop. Are we in a good enough spot? I would say no. We probably should have, in one of those transfer portal windows, I think that we should have added at least one more person than what we did, if not 2. I mean, you want to be double digits, but I kind of get it just because the prices that the players were asking for in that window, it was really, really high. So maybe we just felt like, okay, we're going to roll with what we got and just kind of like hope for the best. Again, we've got a good looking room, and we'll also look at that in just a second. But this is how we stack up if you're just looking at blue chip caliber players. So that's how this is ordered, and that's going to be in that far right column. So Tennessee sitting at number 9 right here. We really should be tied for 7th place, which is still not great. Like, that's kind of like middle of the pack. Now, this is where you can start to see why these numbers really make a difference. Because if, let's just say, any team that's over Tennessee, which is what we should all be focusing on, who's over us, not who's under us, because whenever you want to be the best, you got to try to beat the best, right? So the teams over us, they could, have a lot more leeway for things to happen, for a player, let's just say, to take a play off or to maybe take a game off, because they've got other players that are just as good, that are very, very talented, that can back them up. Tennessee doesn't really have that luxury. Now, we only will rotate, most seasons, you're going to see that Tennessee has only thrown out maybe 4 wide receivers, 4, sometimes 5 wide receivers. And I mean, yeah, that could be true this year, but I just think that given the numbers, you would probably want to let everyone play. So this is Tennessee's actual room. We've seen this several times. Blue chip ratio is at 100%. Gotta love that. The average size is 6'1", 200. This is why we keep on talking about the versatility of this room. Players at that size can play inside or outside. All of our guys need to be able to do that just because it's going to help out with that depth. So the average class, this is a very young room too. That's the other thing. We only have one player that's really gotten true playing time. Mike Matthews, he's gotten some. So I'll say like 1.5, okay? But Brazo didn't have the best year for us last season. Actually, our top 2 guys that had the most drops on the whole team last season. I'm not saying that that's going to happen again in 2025. We feel like in the second year with Coach Heupel's system that those wide receivers do better, right? Maybe Chris Brazo takes that step. We haven't seen him practicing up to this point, so that's kind of just like hopes. I think that he will do it, but we just don't know it for sure. We're also adding some things to our system that's more pro style, more 3-step drop stuff. That's something that Brazo's done previously, and I actually think for all these wide receivers, it should be easier than Tennessee's normal system. But how is that going to look? Because that's a little bit of a different wrinkle. But again, I think that at his previous school, he did a whole lot of that, just jump balls, phase, and that's his game. That's how I think he needs to live. So that should be a pretty positive thing for Tennessee. Mike Matthews, he's looked good. He did miss 1 day of practice, but I think that he's looked really good. He looks sharp. He looks crisp. Coach Heupel's talked about it for this whole team. We don't have time to be young. That's very true. We also don't have time to be walk-ons. We don't have time to be slow. We don't have time to really drop passes. You know what I'm saying? We don't have time to even be hurt. That sounds crazy, but these guys are going to have to go that next step forward and kind of like pros where they do a whole lot of maintenance work. They live inside of the training room. They're going to have to do that, right? As young players, they got to do it just because we're going to need every single person inside of this room. But yeah, I think that Mike's going to be fine. He's an inside outside guy. Brazel, how is he going to look playing inside of that slot? I don't know. But with some of the like tighter splits, it's not as big of a difference with the routes that the outside players run versus those inside players. So that should also help us out with this much lighter room. But then Braylon Staley, I think that he gets to start for us at slot. And listen, he missed the past couple of days. Hopefully he will be back. I hope that it's nothing that's going to be lingering or nagging him. I hope it's more just about like workload management, which is another point that with limited bodies here, they're probably going to be getting a whole lot more reps than some of these other teams. Like we saw Alabama, they had, I think, like 10 scholarship wide receivers. So teams like that, they can stay fresher just because they have more bodies. You don't have to run as much. So yes, there is a certain balance to all of this stuff that I absolutely love. But at the same time, these guys need to get themselves stronger to be able to go through a very long college football season, especially if we want to make a championship run, right? So yeah, I'm sure that we're going to be fine with those top three. And then we have Travis Smith and Ra Jackson, right? So those two guys as freshmen, I love their size. I love how they're handling practice. I think that they look really, really good. I mean, making tough catches and just being straight up dogs. I think that we've got a lot of dogs inside of this room. Dotson, same thing could be said there. He's kind of new to coming up on campus. He's going to be the newest guy that's on campus inside of this room. But, you know, he was starting for us on, what was that, Tuesday, right? So he was one of the starters at slot. That's a very realistic possibility that we have pretty much all freshmen or, you know, all freshmen and maybe like a walk-on as our starters in some of these drives. Can they, you know, live up to that challenge? They're going to have to be ready for it. They all have to look at it like, hey, we're going to be playing a lot this year. Everybody's got to be dialed in. But I love what I've seen from all of those freshmen. Jefferson, he's kind of been up and down. It sounds like he had maybe like a couple of good days here recently, which is very, very positive, but he's got to keep on stacking. He's a guy that inside, outside, you know, mostly slot. Boo, he's going to have to be able to do it all, but probably more of like a gadget piece. I would hope that by, you know, Friday, you know, he needs to be getting some offensive reps just because we don't have enough bodies for him not to. That's why this stuff is so critical. But yeah, I mean, listen, love the guys in this room. I'm definitely not taking a shot at anybody. My whole point here is just to say that, you know, whatever the expectations are, because on the outside, especially as people are looking more at the actual depth, they'll say, man, we don't know about that. You know, we don't know about Tennessee's wideouts. We think that, you know, it's very young and then there's not that many bodies. So how are they gonna, you know, be able to make a championship push with a room like that? They got to take it personally, and they're gonna have to be absolute and total dogs. They're gonna have to make tough catches. They're gonna have to make people miss after the catch. That's one of the other things too with this offensive system is that the football gets out quicker. You get the ball out in space. All these guys should be able to make people miss, but you got to make those tough catches. Then you got to make the people miss. You got to try to take a hitch, take a slant, take a drag, 30, 40 yards in some really critical moments. You got to be able to block. I mean, this everything. There's so much more, I would say, pressure on this room than any other room on this whole team, even more than those quarterbacks. Because if these wide receivers, if they don't play well, then the quarterbacks won't have that confidence. The quarterbacks need the confidence early. So that's why if they can be solid, which it feels like they are getting better, but the better that they are, then the better that this whole doggone team is going to be. And some people will talk about tight ends playing wide receivers, splitting out some. And we've talked about that this whole offseason. We've been talking about that for like years. I think that that's a great thing to try to do, especially once we went to that 12 personnel. Okay, we're going to bunch it up tight, then we're going to hurry up and spread things out. Can we make some mismatches with, you know, with some of these guys like a Ethan Davis, like a Brain, for sure. But at the same time, y'all, there is such a big difference in the type of athlete that's playing at tight end. Even the best athletes at tight end, typically, especially on, you know, on this level, they're nowhere near wide receivers. We need wide receivers to step up. That'll open things up for those tight ends. So yes, it's nice to have those wrinkles and to switch some things up, but we're not going to be able to live like that. I can promise you. That's going to be too easy for these defenses in this league to slow down. So with all of that being said, let's take a look at the rest of this room. Okay, we are going to dive into some of the, like, you know, walk-on players and things like that. So up at the top, man, this is the first player. This is Travis Smith. There's a total of 16 wide receivers, if I counted this right, on this team. That's not counting Boo. But we already know about the scholarship guys, so who else can step up for us? Well, I would say that Carson Whitehead, he's a guy that I feel like maybe previously I had seen some flashes of. I haven't seen him do too much. up to this point, but hopefully, he can help us out. He's 5'10", so maybe more of like a slot player. I don't know how much outside he could do, but maybe some, just given the different splits in the pistol and just different systems. And then with Jack Henry, really good size. So you look at him as maybe like an outside threat. Haven't seen a whole lot from him either. And then Ben Peterman, he's 6'2", so that's nice size, inside outside guy. How does he actually look playing? Right, I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. Nathan Robinson, 6'4". How does he look? Don't know. Malcolm Kinzer. I think I saw him yesterday. Maybe drop a pass, but does it mean that he drops them all the time? I don't know. But none of these guys, right? Like, we don't care that y'all are walk-ons. Y'all are gonna have to step up and act like you're gonna be playing. You can't be dropping passes all the time. Like, we shouldn't hear from the insiders. Well, yeah, there was several drops, but more from like walk-on bodies. No, man. Like, we need all 16 of these guys to be ready. But I would say that Braylon Harmon, I've seen some good things from him. He's a smaller guy, definitely a slot. That was back in spring. I'm not quite sure what he's done up to this point. But this man right here, Trey Weary, that is Fred Weary's son, who, whenever I was a kid, I went to a Tennessee camp whenever he was still playing for Tennessee. He had the biggest arms on a human being that I had ever seen up to that point in my life. So much so that, years and years later, that it still stands out to me how big how big he was, period. But this is a kid I've heard some great things about, and he grew up a big time Tennessee fan. Obviously, he's a true lifelong Vol. I think that he should be ready for this moment. This is his chance to see the field and to try to go take somebody's spot. Whose spot can you take? Like, that should be the thought process for these guys. And I think that the coaching staff should let that happen. If a walk-on player is better than one of the scholarship guys, who cares? Like, we got to put our best players out there, but everyone needs to be ready. So Tommy Winton, we know that he had a good day yesterday too. So smaller guy. There's a lot of smaller guys, but then we also have a couple of like taller players. And then Dion Harden. So he has pretty good size. I just haven't seen too much from him. I think that maybe earlier in the week, I might have seen him run a good route or something. Don't quite quote me on that, but he's number 88. So I feel like that number has flashed to me. But with all those things being said, I mean, listen, it's got to be all hands on freaking deck for this team. And if it's not, then Tennessee is it's going to be a long season. That's just keeping it real. I love this team. I think that, again, this wide receiver room is very, very talented. I'm not here to try to make people panic. That's not the point. But we do need to be realistic with the expectations of this room. And my expectations are that, man, they are the hardest working group on this whole team because they probably have the most on their shoulders, out of any other group on this whole team. So they're going to have to just do the extra stuff, push each other. And it's got to be, hopefully the coaching staff rotates everybody, just because we've got to find, I would say, man, if we could find a total of 10 players that we trust at wide receiver, then you feel totally better, or at least I would personally, I would feel so much better about our chances with this room. But we'll end up getting it figured out. Like I keep on saying, we got a whole bunch of dogs inside of this room. We just need to see that every single day. They cannot afford to take really any time off. If you're taking time off, that should be like work. Like, hey man, I'm in the training room, I'm getting whatever, like rehab stuff done or maintenance stuff done so that I can sustain over the course of this year. But that's how Tennessee's looking. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts down in the comments section. And as always, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be talking to y'all tomorrow. Thanks, peace. Thanks for watching. And please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.